What would you do if your entire world shattered in 5 seconds? One moment, you're full of dreams. The next, you're trapped in a broken body. The doctors say you'll never walk again, never paint again, never become a mother. This isn't a story about giving up. This is a story about rising from silence, from pain, from ashes. They call her the Iron Lady of Pakistan. Before the world called her the Iron Lady, she was just Muniba, a soft-spoken girl from Rahim Yar Khan, Pakistan. She wasn't loud. She wasn't rebellious. But she carried something rare, a quiet fire, a hunger to express, to create, to leave a mark through art, through meaning. She would sketch for hours, imagining her life like a painting, bold, colorful, free. But life in her world didn't always make space for girls with dreams. At just 18, those dreams were gently and silently set aside, arranged into a marriage she didn't choose. Her world became smaller. Her colors dimmed. Her paintbrush sat untouched. She smiled because she was told to. She stayed silent because she had to. But somewhere deep inside, that quiet fire never went out. It just waited for its moment. It was supposed to be just another drive. She was sitting quietly in the passenger seat as the car sped down the road. She didn't know that in just moments, her entire life would split into before and after. The crash was sudden, brutal. Metal twisted, glass shattered, and everything went dark. When she opened her eyes, she was in a hospital, surrounded by silence, wires, and faces that couldn't hide their fear. Her spine was crushed, her arms broken, her dreams drowned under the weight of a diagnosis no one wants to hear. You'll never walk again, the doctor said. You'll never paint. You'll never become a mother. In that moment, something inside her broke, not just bones, but her identity, her sense of self, her future. She was just 21, and in a world where strength is measured by movement, she was told she'd never rise again. Recovery wasn't recovery. It was pain, endless, blinding pain. Every breath hurt. Every movement was a reminder of what she had lost. The girl who once dreamed in color now stared at the ceiling for hours, too broken to even cry. There were surgeries, dozens, metal rods in her back, screws in her spine. Weeks turned into months in a hospital bed that felt more like a coffin than a cradle. And then came the silence. Not the silence of the room, but the silence inside her. She couldn't feel her legs. She couldn't paint. She couldn't even sit up without help. The world outside moved on, but inside her, everything stopped. The world had labeled her disabled, but what she really felt was invisible. Depression crept in quietly, not with screams, but with numbness. Days blurred. Nights became her enemy. She asked herself questions no one could answer. Why me? What did I do wrong? Is this it? She couldn't look in the mirror. The reflection didn't show the girl she used to be. It showed a stranger with hollow eyes and a broken frame. Even her voice, the one thing that had always felt like hers, felt lost. She wanted to give up. And if the story had ended there, no one would have blamed her. But this isn't where her story ends. This is where something invisible, something unexplainable, begins to rise. It didn't happen all at once. There was no lightning strike, no grand revelation, just a moment, so quiet, it could have been missed. She was lying in bed, watching the world pass her by again. Nurses came and went. Days turned into nights. Her hands rested beside her, still and empty. And then she asked for a brush. Just one brush. Just one color. Just one small canvas. No one understood why. After all, she couldn't sit up straight. Her spine was supported by metal. Her dominant hand had lost strength. But for her, that brush wasn't just about art. It was about reclaiming something, anything, that was still hers. The moment the brush touched the canvas, something shifted. She wasn't painting a masterpiece. She was painting survival. She was pouring every unspoken word, every locked-away tear, every scream she hadn't dared to release, into color. In that silence, she found her voice again. Not the voice that speaks, the one that creates. And then, for the first time in months, she smiled. Not because her life was fixed, not because she could walk again, but because she realized something life-changing. She still had power, not over what happened to her, but over what came next. That was the moment she stopped waiting to be whole again and started redefining what whole even meant. She picked up another brush, then another. She painted her pain, her strength, her rebirth, and slowly, her story began to evolve, from victim to survivor to artist to warrior. The girl who once stared at a blank canvas with broken hands was now painting a future that no one, not even fate, could take from her. That moment wasn't loud. It didn't make headlines, but it was the beginning of something unstoppable. The fire inside her had survived, and it was about to light up the world. She didn't wake up one morning and become the Iron Lady. It happened day by day, brushstroke by brushstroke, word by word. With every canvas she painted, she reclaimed another piece of herself. And when people began to notice her work, not with sympathy, but with admiration, something extraordinary unfolded. People didn't just see her as the woman in the wheelchair. They saw her strength, her story, her soul. Invitations followed, to exhibitions, to panels, to stages. But it was her voice, her truth, that shook the world. She stood, not physically, but powerfully, before crowds and told her story. The pain, the loss, the silence, the awakening. In one of her most iconic speeches, she said, "I could either be a victim of my circumstances, or I could choose to be the hero of my own story." And she chose, not just for herself, but for millions who had forgotten their worth. Soon, her message echoed far beyond borders. She became Pakistan's first wheelchair-using anchor. She joined the ranks of the BBC's 100 Most Inspirational Women. And in 2015, she was appointed the UN Women's first National Goodwill Ambassador in Pakistan. But perhaps the most powerful chapter in her rise, when she adopted a son, breaking stereotypes in a society where even standing women are told what they can and cannot do. She became more than a speaker, more than an artist. She became a symbol of resilience, rebirth, and radical self-worth. The world gave her 1,000 reasons to stay silent. She gave the world one powerful reason to listen. And they did. Not because of the chair beneath her, but because of the strength within her. They called her the Iron Lady, not because she couldn't be broken, but because even when she rebuilt herself stronger than ever. And in doing so, she showed us all that sometimes the strongest people are the ones who have every reason to give up, but choose not to. Muniba Mazari didn't just rise. She lifted others with her. Her story was no longer just her own. It became a mirror, a light, a hand stretched out to those still sitting in their own darkness. Across the globe, people who had felt invisible, the broken, the unheard, the different, saw themselves in her voice. She wasn't famous because she survived. She was beloved because she turned survival into service. Her art now hangs in galleries, but it's her words that hang in hearts. She's spoken on global stages, from the United Nations to international conferences, to school classrooms filled with young girls who had been told they couldn't dream. And every time she speaks, it's never from a place of bitterness. It's from a place of strength rooted in softness, the kind of strength that changes lives, not through force, but through truth. She became an advocate for women's rights, for disability inclusion, for self-love. She shattered stereotypes in a world still learning how to see beyond appearances. In a society where shame often hides behind disability, she showed her scars like armor. She taught a generation, in Pakistan and beyond, that strength isn't in walking. It's in choosing to move forward, even when you can't. Millions have watched her story, but more importantly, millions have changed theirs because of it. From hospitals to homes, from Pakistan to the United States, her name travels not as a celebrity, but as a symbol of what happens when a woman owns her pain and dares to rise anyway. And in a world that so often glorifies perfection, Muniba Mazari reminded us that it is in our brokenness, our vulnerability, our rebuilding, that our true power is born. She didn't just become a voice. She became a movement, the kind that doesn't fade with applause, but echoes through lives, long after the curtain falls. Not all heroes wear capes. Some sit in wheelchairs, paint with trembling hands, and rebuild lives from pieces the world once called broken. Muniba Mazari's story doesn't just inspire, it awakens. It reminds us that pain doesn't mean the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning of a deeper strength, a new purpose, a self that doesn't chase perfection, but embraces truth. We live in a world obsessed with what's visible: beauty, success, movement, status. But Muniba taught us to look beyond what eyes can see, because what truly matters is what we carry inside. Courage is not the absence of pain. It is the decision to rise with pain in your bones and hope in your heart. And choice is everything. She could have chosen silence, but she chose to speak. She could have chosen bitterness, but she chose healing. She could have chosen to disappear, but she chose to shine. So what will you choose? When life breaks you, and it will, in some way, will you shrink? Or will you stand, even if you can't on your feet, but in your soul? Her story is a mirror, not for what she endured, but for what we're all capable of becoming. Maybe you're going through your own silent war right now. A heartbreak, a failure, an invisible wound. Let this be your reminder. You are not powerless. You are not broken beyond repair. And you are not alone. You don't have to be unscarred to be strong. You don't have to be perfect to be whole. All you need is that one quiet moment when you say, "I'm not done yet." Because that's where the story begins. That's where hope lives. That's where people like Muniba Mazari are born. And that is where your spark becomes unstoppable.